can just see the back of my head, and that's perfect.
Thanks everybody for coming to the July 28th, 2025 work session. You all please stand, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Councilor Kent is sick tonight, so he has an excused absence. And we'll get right into the committee reports. So Councilor Kent is first up on the public safety, but I know National Night Out's coming, so August 5th at 5 to 7. Councilor Kramer, do you want to speak to anything, or Dukes, do you have anything to add to that for Councilor Kent?
We're just pretty much summing it up, just tying any loose ends right there, but it looks like it's going to be a very good event. So hopefully we get some good participation from the community through that.
I see all the signs are up, and the last couple of years have been big, so.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
What night is it again?
August 5th.
And 7th.
It's a Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Coming up soon.
Some plenty of stuff for the kids. Okay, and then we'll move on to item B has been taken off, no airport commission report.
No report?
So Wayne Act, Councilor Kent's not here. Councilor Dukes, do you have anything? Did you go to the last meeting?
No, I have not.
Okay, but you are officially too, Councilor Dukes is on the Lane Act committee with Councilor Kent?
I'm not on officially yet.
You are for us.
Okay, well, yeah.
Well, I'm announcing it to make sure everybody, the public knows, at least that you're heading that direction with
Yeah,
your.
so I'm trying to get on there, yes.
Yes, with your truck driving background, they need somebody with your experience, so
Yeah.
we're, the city, the council is recognizing you moving forward in that. Curtis, did you have something?
Yeah, the Lane Act did not meet last month.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna move on to presentations. Judge Palmer, please, sir.
Hi, welcome everybody. Glad you're here. This is going to be very informal. I encourage you to ask questions as we go along. I'm going to be talking about two things, policy and practice. The court is organized under the city charter. We have all the authority that's granted to us by the charter and also by ORS Chapter 221, which basically provides that a municipal court has all the authority, which means jurisdiction, that a justice of the peace has. So we get to hear things. We don't get to hear felonies. We can hear practically any city matter that comes up. That includes civil disputes. We could do small claims. We've never had one filed, but we're available. We usually get our business two ways. One is the sheriff goes out and he patrols and he sees somebody violating the law. It could be a municipal ordinance, it could be a state statute, a traffic statute of that nature. And he stops them, writes out a citation, commanding them to come to court to answer the charge, and he hands it to them, and that means they're served. Service is very important because that's how you acquire jurisdiction over the person. It's possible that somebody could come in and make a special appearance and say, I was never served and I moved to Quash, and then we'd make some decision about that, but that's not very common. The sheriff's deputies know what they're doing, they know what they're citing for, those sorts of things. Now the sheriff's deputies, as they're patrolling, are looking out for a bunch of different things. For example, we get a lot of citations for drivers that are driving while suspended and with no insurance. Well, you might ask yourself, well, how does the sheriff know that they are suspended or that they don't have insurance because he just sees them driving by? Well, they have ways of doing that. One is they can run the license plate. Yeah, that runs back to John Doe, and John Doe is suspended by DMV effective such and such a date. That gives them reasonable suspicion in which to make a stop, write out a citation, file a complaint with the court, and bring the case before me. The other way they can do it is they've seen this guy go by 7 or 8 times, and they've cited him for driving while suspended, 6 of them. So they say, hey, it's him again. Same kind of thing. He's got reasonable suspicion. He writes a citation, brings him to court. We call witnesses and those sorts of things. The other thing that they do is they go out and they investigate what we would call ordinance violations, like dangerous dog, dog barking, excessive noise, loud and excessive music, those kinds of things. And generally what they do is they go out and investigate, they write a report, but the complaint is filed by the citizen who is affected. One example that comes to mind is it was a former city councilor, and she lived next door to a neighbor, and they were not getting along well at all. So the city councilor filed a noise complaint against the neighbor. They came before the court. They were going to have a trial. We had what we call a mediation, where we sit down and we talk with them and we see if we can't work out a deal. That's one of the services I provide. It's in my contract, all that sort of thing. And in this particular situation, we got all the way down to a settlement. I got the parties to agree to the terms, and at the last minute, the defendant walked away. Well, because I conducted the mediation, I could not conduct the trial. So Judge Rashi conducted the trial. He heard the evidence. He found the defendant guilty. The big problem was that this lady came back another time. Same kind of complaint. And at that point in time, I had not conducted the mediation. I didn't have a conflict. And so consequently, I heard that case, ruled against the defendant again, based upon what Judge Rashi had done before, and we imposed certain problems. And one of the things that I said was, you know, you can't blast music that can be heard 50 feet away, which is, I believe, what this provision is in the ordinance. And I remember having discussions with Mayor Stram at that time. Well, that doesn't sound fair. Like, how do you know whether you can blast your music or not? Well, that's because I can't give them, I can't say for certain today that the music you're playing here violates the ordinance. And that's basically what I explained, what I told him. But we got some good information about that and how to deal with difficult defendants like that. Because this particular woman was very, very, very difficult. Yes, no, yes, no. But that's just part of my job, listening to people like that. I've done the same thing for where there's dogs at large, or somebody's has lights going off into their neighbor's backyard, those kinds of things. And it's basically what my approach is to try to get the parties together to sit down and talk and make a deal. Oftentimes it's neighborhoods. If you've got a dog barking, you've got more than one neighbor usually. You've got 5 or 6. And as with dangerous dog complaints, we haven't seen too many of those yet, but for example, you'll get 10 witnesses that will come in and say the dog is Benji. And you'll get 10 witnesses that come in and say the dog is Cujo. And so I get to evaluate that evidence based upon my experience and what the ordinance says and come up with a ruling. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, you've heard me say that, those of you who visited court. It's preponderance of the evidence. You imagine that there's a big scale and it's got a dish, and all the prosecution is, which is either the private witness or the sheriff's deputy, they have to get 50 plus something. That's sufficient for a conviction. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a big different standard, and some people don't understand that when they come in, that sort of thing. Now, in practice, when somebody comes in and they plead guilty, I have certain information that's available. I have a printout typically from the, what is it, I have to take a test for it every 2 or 3 years. The criminal information system. Anyway, they produce a record on everybody that appears. And so they will do a search and get information about that, and that will tell me how many convictions they've got, whether they've been suspended before, those sorts of things. I don't look at that in the arraignment process. The arraignment process is, I read the charge, as you know, and I ask them, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest. And I don't want to talk to them about the merits of the case until they've either entered a no contest or a guilty plea, or they've been found guilty at trial. They have the right to remain silent about any of the facts and circumstances of the case. We tell them that. It's a little bit different than, Law and Order on TV when you're dealing with felonies and those kinds of things. We don't appoint attorneys. One of the reasons that we are a violation city, if you will, was 20 plus years ago, we were having jury trials. And sometimes we had to appoint counsel to represent the defendant, and that cost a lot for the city. Then we'd have to bring in a jury, we'd have to pay them jury fees and those kinds of things. And then we'd have a jury trial. We had several of them. And finally, the city manager at that time, Ron Hansen, looked at it and said, this is costing too much, how can we avoid this? Well, the city council came up with a solution, and that was to make things violations, because violations don't subject somebody to incarceration. Now, they're still eligible for incarceration for contempt if they, mouth off in court or they create a disturbance or something like that. But for the charge themselves, even shoplifting, which you have made a violation in the city of Creswell, up to a particular limit, they don't go to jail. Now, I have some discretion there, and that's where we're going to get to eventually here. We're going to talk about policy. What kind of discretion should I exercise? And I have lots of sources of information for discretion on that, like what does the statute provide? What's my experience over many, many years? What do I know about this particular defendant? Those kinds of things. But it also depends upon policy that you folks tell me. So what I'm hoping for today is to kind of open and invite a dialogue about that. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I can't talk to one of you alone in this sense. The mayor comes to me and he says, I'm really upset about X, Y, Z, or F, and I want to do this. Well, I can't act on that. I can pay attention to it, but I don't know at that point whether he's been deputized by the city council. Mayor, you go talk to the judge, and this is what we want you to say. That's the format in which the dialogue needs to take place. The other thing is, I can't talk to you or comment about something on a particular case while it's active. So that's up through verdict and 30 days after, which is the appeal period. So if I don't, you want to talk to me about it and I say I can't talk to you about it, that's the reason why. I have to wait. I can't talk to you while there's an active case because it violates the canons of judicial ethics. I'm not worried about this, but the thought is that you would be exercising unlawful pressure on me to come up with a particular result in that case, and I can't do that. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, we've talked about practice. We've got things that are going on, lots of kinds of things. But now let's talk about policy. And I'm not picking on you, Mayor, but because I really
I'm the one that came to you.
You're the one that came to me, and I'm glad you did, because it really gives us a good opportunity. So, back when he was city councilor, before he became mayor, he was, as you will be, observing a trial, something like that. And he would observe arraignments and those sorts of things. And some people, man, their heartstrings, pull on you because they've had really tough lives. Bill Kent accompanying a number of folks that have, are homeless. Well, homelessness and how we deal with it is a policy decision that you folks tell me how you want me to do it. So I get to put my personal perspectives aside unless my discretion is based upon something else other than, the person is homeless or something like that. So let's talk about a prime example. Driving while suspended, no insurance. The sheriff's deputy has cited them in. Frequently, they don't cite them in for the offense that they actually saw them commit. They were speeding, they ran a red light, they didn't come to a complete stop at a stop sign, they crossed the center line, they were speeding in the school zone, something else. They will typically charge them not with everything that they've done. They will typically charge them with the most severe offenses. Well, driving while suspended has some policy implications. The state of Oregon wants everybody who drives on a public highway to have a valid driver's license. And the state of Oregon has adopted a policy that they want everybody in the state of Oregon who drives a motor vehicle to have insurance. So why wouldn't this person have insurance, and why wouldn't they have a driver's license? Well, the judges in this state have been talking about this for 20, 30 years because it's a continual problem. The problem is that you've got that driving while suspended becomes a crime of poverty. You get cited for your license gets suspended for some reason. Maybe you didn't pay a ticket. You get convicted, you plead guilty or something like that to driving while suspended, and you didn't have insurance, and you get hit with a fine, $465, $225. It could be more. It could be $1,000. The amount that you're seeing on the ticket is basically the base fine. I can go above that in some circumstances. Usually we don't. I can't go above the amount that's listed in the citation if the defendant doesn't appear, because they didn't have notice that they might be tagged for more than the 465 that's on the face of the citation. So this guy, he lives out of town. His job is in Eugene. He's got to put food on the table. So he drives to work and he gets popped again. He has a child. He has to take the child for medical treatment. He gets popped a third time, and on and on and on. So you have a series of these things. So the judges have been scratching their head for 30 years, like, how do we deal with this? I remember one circuit judge I was appearing in front of up in Multnomah County. And during one of the breaks in the trial, we were talking about this because I was a judge and he was a judge, and we were talking. And he brought up the driving while suspended problem. Crime of poverty that just compounds over and over and over again. Well, do we look the other way? No, we don't want to do that. Do we give them a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance? I don't know. To me, I don't know if you see it or not, when some of these people are appearing in front of me, I'll always ask him, what will it take for you to get your license? Well, I got to clear up this ticket, and I got to go here, and I got to do that, and then I got to go to DMV. And DMV is really pretty good, but for somebody who is not familiar with the process, it's a nightmare. And they make mistakes, and they do the wrong thing, and they ask the wrong stuff, and they don't have the assistance of counsel because they can't afford it. Okay? So I say, okay, to me, the first step in discretion for me is, one, why were you suspended? I didn't know I was suspended. Well, why didn't you know you were suspended? Well, Did you get a notice from DMV saying you're suspended? No, I didn't. That is a defense under the statute to driving while suspended. You did not receive the required notice from DMV. Next question is, did you move and you didn't tell DMV that you moved? Well, yeah, sorry, defense goes away. Lack of notice is not a defense unless you affirmatively keep DMV appraised of your residence, where you receive mail. And you have an absolute statutory duty to do that within 30 days of the date you move. So that's number one. Why did you get suspended? Number two is, I apologize for my handwriting. Since my shoulder separation, my shoulder replacement surgeries on my right arm, I can't write anymore. My penmanship wasn't that great beforehand. So anyway, number two is, if I give you 30 days, can you get back here with your license and insurance? Some people who I just found out that I didn't know. Some people have already gone, they've got their insurance card, they show it to me, that's step one, they've got their insurance. Number two is, I got my license back, I went to DMV, those kinds of things. Well, in that kind of situation, I tend to treat that as a fix-it ticket. You solved the problem. We're not going to pile on by making you pay a whole bunch of money for this offense that you've now taken care of, and hopefully you've learned your lesson. Now, how do we know they're going to not subsequently reoffend? We don't. So, in discussions with the mayor, and I agree with this, how many chances should we give this individual to fix it? And that's where I appreciate your help in telling me, we only want you to give him 2 chances, or we only want you to give him 1 chance under these circumstances. That's reasonable to do because you represent the community, and I want to enforce what the community believes in its values, like are on the wall there. So, when it comes down to policy, like I said, you can tell me what the policy is by the ordinance that you write and by the penalty that you impose on it. Now, the mayor was interested in throwing the book at some people, and that's not bad. That's right. If they're deserving of it because they haven't taken advantage of the first chance or the second chance or however many chances we agree to give them. But then the question for me is, what does throwing the book at this defendant look like to you? What does that mean for you? Does it mean, fine the max, suspend his license, make him do other kinds of stuff? That's where I need your help. I need you guys to tell me, I'm trying to get this particular guy, I'm trying to get the defendants that appear in front of me to stop their bad behavior and don't speed, don't run stop signs, don't drive while suspended, don't shoplift, don't own dangerous dogs, those kinds of things. Now, I will say this about dangerous dogs. I had, when I was a very young judge, one of the first dangerous dogs cases that ever came to me was a guy named Ed Garden. Ed Garden appeared many, many times in this court after this, but this was my first event with him. And he had a dog, and they literally brought in the neighborhood. It was a 2.5, 3-hour trial, and we had half the witnesses saying the dog was Benji, and half the dogs saying the dog was Cujo and evil and terrible and rotten and nasty. And both sides were very convincing. At that time, the ordinance gave every dog 1 bite before they could be a dangerous dog. The 1-bite rule. Well, the only evidence I heard was that this was the first bite from this dog. So I found Mr. Gordon not guilty. End of story? No. 6 months later, we were back in court. The city council had changed the ordinance, or was going to change the ordinance. I can't remember if they'd actually changed it at that point in time, past the one bite rule. This dog got a child in the face. It was horrible. And I made a promise to myself and to the citizens of Creswell at that point in time that that's not going to happen under my watch, if I can help it. So if I am, since then, I think I've handed out about 15 death sentences for dogs. And I'm a dog lover. I've got dogs, you know, I mean, hey, some of the dogs come in and they're really nice and all that kind of stuff, and I want to know how and why did that dog bite this time? What was the circumstances? But you all changed it. Now it's like, does it have a dangerous propensity? And you know, you've got a really good structure in terms of how you deal with the offense. Got to be muzzled. Got to be in a 6-foot leash. Can't be off the property. You got to have signs that say this is a dangerous dog, those kinds of things. You have to go through training, those kinds of things. So the ordinance, that's an example of you changing policy to say, hey, this one bite stuff is not what we want something different, do this. So I'm inviting that on anything that you want to talk about. Any ordinance that you think is important to say, you know.
If I may, Judge.
Please.
So that is why we're here tonight. That's why we're listening to Judge Palmer. This started a year ago for me when I was in court and I had some major issues. I spoke to him. We brought it up in our review in our executive session. Has every counselor been to court yet this year? Okay. So
I haven't yet. But
Okay, so
I've been.
you've been a few times already.
Yeah.
So we all understand what we're seeing in this court. So tonight, what we are beginning to do is direct Judge Palmer, and not only do I want the book thrown at the third time, but does the council. So as he said, it's not all about me, it's about the council, what the council wants for the city. So we are trying to discuss with him and discuss with ourselves, the community, on where we want him to go, how much do we want to enforce the law on the dogs, on the driving while suspended, do we want to do something different? I want to bring that to the table. That has not been talked about one time since I've been sitting at that dais in any seat, and I think it's time. We've had plenty of reviews, and we've had executive sessions, and Judge has been open to everything that he and I have discussed about, and so we're bringing it to everyone and every counselor if they have any questions for the judge on policy or practice, and is there anything that the citizens that you speak with are talking to you that would like to enforce more? Speeding, school zone issues, dogs, you know, bright, like I said, bright lights, loud music. Do we want to enforce anything more differently? That isn't going to be decided tonight, but we're open to the discussion right now for future adjustments, codifications, things like that. So I think, Judge, your background was good. I definitely want to like to see if the counselor's got anything to
Sure.
feedback.
Well, you opened with a statement about, what was the statement about the money? You didn't want to become, what did you say?
Yeah, how much do you want to spend for the justice that you want? For example,
No, but you talked about.
Violation.
I think I can go there. So, right now, you don't get jailed for any offense that happens in Creswell Municipal Court. You don't go to jail. I can't sentence you to 5 days or 10 days or 30 days, something like that. If you want to do that, if you want to change your policy that says, no, we want, you know, there are some things that people are deserving to go to jail for. Well, then you need to consider the money. You got to rent a jail bed, either at Lane County or Springfield. My personal opinion, don't go to Lane County because they'll get matrixed out. I was a municipal judge in Springfield. The defendants hated to be there because they did the time. They don't have TVs, they don't have weight rooms and things like that. They have books that they can read. and they'll teach them how to read if they don't know how. And to me, I think jailing some people is a necessity. Sometimes it's to get their attention, sometimes it's to keep them on the straight and narrow, sometimes it's to make sure that they're going through their rehabilitation programs and those sorts of things. But to me, there is a role for jail in the appropriate circumstance. So if you do that, you're going to have a jail contract. It's going to cost some money. And Jim can scope all that stuff out for you if you want to go there, just to consider it. That's fine. The other thing about jailing is then, because they can be subject to jail, then they've got some different constitutional rights. Then they have the right to an attorney, and if they cannot afford one, one will be appointed for them at city expense. Well, there's a public defender crisis in the state right now. There aren't enough public defenders to handle all the cases that are going on. So there's a lot of cases that the DA won't file. For example, that's why they file shoplifting cases in my court, because they aren't filing shoplifting cases in circuit court. So if you wanted the extra hammer of being able to put the shoplifter in jail for 1 day or 2 days, you're going to have to hire an attorney to represent them. I don't know what the going rate is. It's something Jim and I can talk about if you guys are interested in. And it's okay to be interested in just to know, well, what's the cost-benefit analysis here? No, we think it's really important to do it for this offense, and this offense. That brings jury trials back. There's some expense attached to that. We probably have more court sessions, so that brings some expense back to that too. So I'm not saying don't do it. You have the right to set the policy and how you do it, but in making that calculation, be sure you figure out what the cost-benefit analysis is. Sure.
First of all, I think there is no cost to make our community safe that we shouldn't consider. I am personally really tired of repeat offenders because we're just slapping them on the back of the hand and we're saying, well, don't do it again. Don't do it again. I'm tired of that. Second, you made a statement at the beginning, I think this is what I was looking for. You were talking about where people become criminally poor. Is that the correct terminology that you used?
Crime of poverty.
Crime of poverty.
Crime of poverty. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I was trying to get at. I get feeling bad about that for people, like because they get to a point where they can't afford the fees anymore. But at what point do we hold them accountable to being responsible?
I don't know. I look at it on a case-by-case basis, and if you want to give me some guidance.
That's what we're trying to do, is give him more guidance.
Right,
We're opening that door, that discussion.
Because, you know, another question I have, property crimes here in Creswell, when people walk onto a property and steal from it, is that a violation as well?
It can be charged as a violation. It can also be charged as a misdemeanor or felony in Lane County Circuit Court. That depends upon whether the DA will take it.
So we have a DA problem, really, is what this boils down to. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, we have a DA problem because they don't have a whole bunch of things. They don't have enough DAs to prosecute all the cases, and they don't have enough public defenders to represent all the defendants.
Do they have the desire to prosecute these cases? That's my next question.
I can't speak for the DA on that.
I feel like the climate has changed around that, and that people have become more apathetic to these kinds of crimes. And I think that that's what's fostering more of it. And so for me, I'm a 1 chance. I really don't even want to give them that, but I'm at 1 chance. That's where I'm at. 3 is a lot. You're being super nice.
And I'm throwing the book
One
at
chance thing. The advantage there is. Everybody who gets cited and comes to court is looking for a reduction in the fine. It's money. A lot of these people, I'd say a majority of them that appear in our court, can't pay the fine the night in which it's imposed. They need to make a payment arrangement, and some of them have to come back 2 or 3 times to adjust the payment arrangement to get the fine paid. I'm okay with that. As long as they're coming back, I still got my hand on them, and I can guide them and make sure that they're following stuff, or we can do follow-up things. We can order them to come back to court for mandatory appearances, for example. But everybody's coming, even the, you know, the nice lady who's never had a traffic citation before, and she was speeding because she didn't slow down as the speed limit was dropping. And she comes in and she's so embarrassed and that sort of thing. She's looking for a reduction in fine. When you get a reduction in fine, they feel like they got a fair shake. And a fair shake adds legitimacy to the city, to the whole process, to the sheriff, everything. So there's some advantage in doing that. Now, how many times we allow them to do that? I'm with you. I've listened to what the mayor has said, and I've thought about it, and I think, yeah, you know, some people that have got this their third offense, no, they don't deserve anything. Now the question is it the third offense before me, or is it the third offense in general? I get a lot of people where they've been suspended and they haven't paid fines for a bunch of other courts. And I always ask them, which courts are you suspended in? That kind of thing. Sure.
Isn't that the reduction in fine always up to your discretion, regardless of the policy? That's up to your discretion, correct?
Except there's some I can't reduce and I won't
No
reduce.
shows cannot be reduced.
Can't reduce, I don't reduce no-shows. You know, shoot, if you want a reduction, you got to come to court and ask for it. But an example of, what was the question again?
The reduction in fines, is that not up to your
Reduction
discretion?
in fines. There's some that I can't reduce, and for example, I can't reduce speeding in a work zone or a school zone, and I won't. Another one is cell phone. I don't reduce cell phones. They get a warning. They get, you know, 2 strikes. The third one, they're going for a misdemeanor in circuit court, and they will prosecute that. And they're looking at a year in jail, and you know, I think it's a $2,500 fine. So it's a big deal. So, and I tell people, you know, this is your first. You got consequences coming on down the line. Yes.
So, like with the no insurance and their license has been suspended or something, do they tow their cars as well, or is that part of that process?
They used to, and then, you know, back in Kate Brown's administration, they were trying to get our hand on, you know, this huge driving while suspended problem.
Mhm.
So they limited the ability of courts, primarily municipal courts, justice courts, in whether we can suspend the license. We can't suspend it for failure to pay. We can suspend it for failure to comply. So if they don't pay, we cite them in for another mandatory court appearance. And if they don't show up, they fail to comply, and then we can suspend their license for that.
Yeah, because I mean, my only get on that one is that they're using their automobile to create this, and so if that's taken away from them until they straighten up and they pay all their stuff, then they can have that back. But so I was kind of curious if that is, could that be part of that?
I think it can.
And that way the city's not paying for that, nobody else is paying for it, but the person that's
You gotta
doing
pay
crime.
for the towing
Yeah,
the first time.
okay.
And I think the last conversation I had with the sheriff, the sergeant, was, I said, now, do you guys used to tow cars for DWSs? And it didn't appear to me they were doing this. He says, oh yeah, we do.
Okay.
So I guess that's something you talk to the sheriff about. And again, in terms of policy, you can say, this is the level of enforcement we want, this is what we want you to do.
It's a very encompassing policy, for sure. If you
Right.
look at driving while suspended, property crimes,
Yeah.
other offenses. But we're talking now, and we need to talk now, and we need to see where Creswell wants to go in the next few years. And Judge is just asking us, with our conversations, he's asking for direction.
Yeah.
He's willing to adjudicate as the council sees fit, which is elected by the city, which is the citizens, and so that's what we're trying to do. So if you got any questions or any comments,
With one caveat, I still have a conscience, and I follow my conscience.
I've not seen it.
And I know nobody's asking me not to do that, but it's like, I may push back a little bit sometimes saying, do you really want me to do that? I don't think it's a good reason for these 4 reasons. And if I haven't persuaded you and you insist upon it, then I'll follow your policy.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what if we were to take a look at the policy, and maybe I'm hearing this wrong, but it kind of sounds like if we do that, we would be taking that discretion out of your hands. And what you do, I would never want to do. So it kind of feels like if we were to do that, if we were to take a look at this policy to some degree, we would be doing that to some.
I don't
think we're taking discretion. We're allowing him to, I'm not trying to micromanage.
No.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
if we're all in line with, we need to be a little bit tighter. We need to, we're all given 2 chances. Stacy's gonna have to deal with it, and we're not gonna give 3, and I gotta deal with it. So we're given 2, and judge says, okay, that's it. You got 2 chances. After that, we're throwing the book at you. We're hammering
Yeah.
down. I'm done with this
This
nonsense.
is how big of the book is.
And that's all we're doing is giving him more defined parameters. Otherwise, it is up to him. I'm not micromanaging him. We are just giving him
I totally agree.
a more defined book to rule with.
So we we're not talking about actually amending the
No.
policy.
No.
We're just giving direction to say 3 strikes and you're out? Is that what?
Yes and no. I mean, we can amend the policy, but right now we're just discussing, and I think we obviously got 2 or 3 more discussions here
Okay.
to look at the policy, but we're opening it up.
What
This is the first time Judge has been here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
bringing Judge here for the first time so that we can have one of these. We've never done it. So this is kind of new for all of us.
And I'm happy to come back. And you should talk to the city attorney in terms of what's the document that you pass when you decide what the policy is going to be that informs me of what I'm supposed to follow.
Right.
Because if the council adopts it by resolution,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be unanimous, but it has to be a majority. And then I'm not in trouble because and you're not in trouble because you're trying to influence me on a particular case. It's like you're following the whole general policy, and so we're all covered. And we all want the same thing that's on the wall. We want a place that's livable, and unfortunately, we've got some characters that aren't that desirable.
But I appreciate the conversation with Judge, because when he brought up the money, of what it's gonna cost for a bed, it's not something when I say throw the book, and I'm like, throw the dang book at him, I'm sick of it. And he's like, well, what's it gonna cost the city? I'm like, I didn't really think about it at first, so that's on me. That was fair. I'm like, okay, we do need to have a deeper, more in-depth conversation and see, obviously, we want a safe city. And I think we spare no expense for the most part, but there's still expenses to be spared, and we need to navigate that.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, when I said 1 chance too, I wasn't referring to like the first time they come in. And that's not, I'm just saying, that for me, 1 chance beyond that, like, so, and I appreciate your discretion in lowering fines, et cetera. I do. I think that you've done a great job in that. I think the concern for me has been that things haven't been consistent. I was at a meeting where I felt like an outside party was actually navigating things for a defendant that didn't show up. And I thought that was kind of weird, maybe inappropriate, I don't know. But those are the things that bother me. I felt like we were giving special treatment to somebody when we shouldn't have been. And so I want to see things that are consistent.
Sure.
You say case-by-case basis. I think that's important, but I think it's also important to make sure we're being equitable in how we adhere case-by-case
Absolutely.
basis.
Whether you have money or don't have
Yeah.
money.
Can you tell me more about that example? About where the third person was advocating for the person who wasn't present?
I mean, I could if you really want me to bring it
Yeah,
up here.
please.
I don't
You
remember.
don't need to give me names, but.
I don't remember who the defendant was, but it was somebody, one of our unhoused population, I believe, as I recall. I think he was
Okay.
at the same meeting, yeah. And there was a community member that was
Sure.
very heavily involved in that.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. So you know what I'm talking
I
about?
do.
Thank you.
Bill?
You said not to name names.
Oh, it's all right.
I followed the rules.
Bill is a homeless advocate.
I understand
He
that.
provides good information to me, but he's not the last word on what I do.
Right, I understand that, but from an outsider point of view, from somebody just sitting in the
Sure.
audience, it looked really inappropriate.
Okay.
And I could imagine that somebody else sitting in court that day that maybe wasn't a city councilor might have thought the same thing. But I don't know. I'm just telling you what I observed. Obviously, I didn't make an issue of this. This was like last year sometime, right? And I'm just.
glad you mentioned it, because the point that I'm taking from this is consistency.
Absolutely.
Transparency, and people who aren't authorized to speak for other people don't pay any attention to them as much.
I think so. I mean, you know, I don't know what his relationship is with this person. I don't know if he's a certified NGO that can represent people in court. I don't know any of the answers to any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I just know what it looked like, and
Sure.
sometimes optics are all that matters.
Oh, exactly.
We have a question from
Yeah.
the crowd, too.
I'm just curious because you started it out by saying that the mayor had approached you, or that you can't talk to any city councilor or probably even some of the other employees one-on-one. Everything has to be transparent. So was your discussion with, you just said Mr. Kent has informed you of some things and told you about some things? Was that done in front of the whole court?
Yes.
Or was that done?
That was the only time we've ever talked about homelessness issues has
Okay.
been in open court.
Okay, because like advocating for someone on the side and then slanting it to where it's kind of set up might make, I wasn't there, but might make someone wonder about that. So I just
Oh,
wondered,
sure.
does it go for the public as well? I couldn't come talk to you and just say, hey, I have this thing that's going on, or I'm trying to advocate, not just for the homeless, even for someone who might have broke the law, or something I saw at Dollar Tree, or witnessed, or whatever.
If you came to me, I'd stop you and say, I can't talk to you about this. I want you to go talk to the sheriff's deputy, and his phone number, his contact, stuff like that.
Is that what you
Yeah.
did with this situation? Or
I don't
that
know
it
about
wasn't
that.
appropriate? Oh, okay.
No, it was just kind of like, he showed up in court. He was kind of helping the defendant try to get housed and try to get
Okay,
services
yeah.
and those kinds of things, and they were here, and he had some information about where the person was.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing in background is, you know, I'm a member of Eugene Rotary Club, and I've been a member there for 41 years. And one of the big projects we have is trying to deal with homelessness. And so, you know, we've built a lot of small houses, a lot of Conestoga wagons, and those kinds of things. And I think Bill and I have talked about what's the possibility of Eugene Rotary Club sponsoring something, doing something. I mean, you know, our club gives out grants to folks to try to do good projects, and homelessness is a big project. And I'm not on that committee, but, you know, I don't have a problem advocating that Eugene Rotary Club try to find some funds available for a project involving the city of Creswell and homeless. Ma'am.
That's assuming that we want more Conestoga wagons in our city.
I already understood emphatically you do not. But there's other things that can be done.
Yeah.
It's not just building wagons or small houses or those kinds of things. There's other kinds of resources that are available.
So
Fair.
Yeah.
unlike the county that would kind of encompass Creswell, Eugene is giving out grants for outlying areas?
No, Eugene Rotary Club.
Oh, okay.
It's a private 501c3
Right,
organization that's
yeah.
been around for
Yeah,
100 and some years.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
We'd also like continuity with our sheriff's department, with the judge. You can't write speeding tickets, so we need our sheriffs to be out there to do that. I know that's Alonzo's.
I know, well, thank you, Mayor, sorry. You know, but you know, in the last year, couple years, whatever, from feedback from our citizens and from yourself, that LCSO needs to be out there writing more tickets.
Yeah.
And so I have been encouraging and having conversations about that, and I think that Sergeant Speltrick and our officers, who I have hold up to the highest respect, have been doing a great job. They have really upped their game. As a matter of fact, I think Sergeant Speltrick has a new report. I think I just had one of them up here. And since he started this new tracking system, the last 3 months, his 15 speeding violations have been written.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. From when I first got into this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were lucky to have one 4 months.
Well,
But anyway, excuse me. So but I've also received feedback from some of our LCSO that they would like to see a little more, not throwing the book at, but some more
Accountability.
accountability, thank you, for some of those folks. And I think that that way, they would feel supported. So in turn, I guess I'm just trying to share some of that feedback with
No,
you.
that's good.
And maybe find a little better balance between
Sure.
LCSO and yourself and for the citizens of Creswell. So,
Well, I talk to the sheriff on a regular basis. We don't talk specific cases, or unless he says you're gonna have an ugly one coming up on such and such a date, and it's like, well, do we need extra deputies? Well, sometimes that happens. So we have some conversations about that. We've had some conversations about fix-it tickets, that kind of thing. And to my mind, they're kind of on board with that, but if they're telling you that they want more accountability, I'm okay with that.
I have a situation to speak to that, and we'll leave names and stuff out, but it was last year, but there was a gentleman that was brought to here for the third or fourth time in cuffs because he would not appear. He left here in cuffs, but was not taken to jail and given another chance at a payment plan. Do you
Let me
remember
tell
that? You
you
remember
why.
that one? Okay.
I remember that
Because
guy.
I was here that night, and that was the one
Oh, yeah.
that started this whole thing for me.
Oh, yeah. We can't jail him for not paying his parking tickets. But we could cite him in for a mandatory appearance, and when he failed to appear, then I wanted to get across to this guy that he was gonna pay, he had to pay. I could have him taken to jail, he wasn't in contempt. But I could have them, I signed a warrant for his arrest, and they went out and knew where he was, picked him up, brought him in handcuffs, and he promised to make his payments and that kind of stuff, and I think he didn't do it one more time, and we brought him in a second time. So, to me, that's throwing the book at this guy, because I can't jail him.
Okay.
He moved his trailer outside the city limits, so we're not citing him anymore, which is a win. But to get him to be accountable, to make him pay, the most I could do was to have him arrested and brought to court and extract another payment agreement from him.
So with that situation such as that, do you have any suggestions for us as a council that we can amend a resolution to that where we have a little bit more flexibility or something like that? We can jail or another consequence. I know you're not a lawyer and all that, but you've been around long enough, so you.
I want to think about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure you can for like a parking ticket, for example.
Okay.
Now, can you have them do other things other than just pay a fine?
What we
Community
have done sometimes in the past is we have said, okay, you can work off your fine at $10 an hour, which is the going rate for like Springfield, Eugene, things like that. And you can work off your fine, and you have to report to the sheriff and work on the road crew. And we've had some success with that. We haven't done much lately. I'm happy to revisit that and impose that. To give people an option, like you can pay us or you can't pay us, but then fine, you can do road crew, and we expect you to do road crew. And then when you don't do that, then you fail to comply and you can be arrested.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some judges for stupid ones, they're holding a sign out there on the street saying that they did this stupid thing. And it's more embarrassment thing, but they learn a lesson.
Can our local sheriff's department do road crew, or does it have to go to Springfield or Eugene? Or-
No, it goes directly from us to the.
So we can't have them around here cleaning up ODOT ramps that they should be mowing, and we can't get them a line trimmer and make them go out and work?
Whatever. Then, the sheriff is the one that decides where they're gonna work and how, that kind of stuff.
So we'll talk to
The
Bill.
problem with signs and stocks and things like that from the old
Yeah.
days, that violates the 8th Amendment.
Okay.
Cruel and unusual punishment. Now, that may change, the Supreme Court's complexion has changed, they might, they did away with that decision that Grants Pass had that, that basically criminalized camping because they didn't have another resource, and the Ninth Circuit affirmed it and went up to the Supremes, and they said, no, that's not a problem. So with the current 6-3 majority, I don't know what the Supreme Court would do, but it's kind of like, I don't want to make the city of Creswell a test case
No.
that goes all the way up to the Supreme Court.
No.
That'd be very expensive.
We don't want that either.
So I think going forward, to kind of encompass what we've done here, though, is council, feel free to email Judge.
Yeah,
I think we need to revisit with ourselves, with our citizens, and maybe in 3 months, we discuss again, or email me, we can get with new city manager Vincent, and we can, and Jim and everybody, we can get to the point where maybe we do some amending.
I have a request. The ordinances and municipal codes on our website are very hard to navigate. It's very hard to find things, it's not easy to print anything out. Is it possible that we can have packets printed for us of all of the municipal codes and ordinances,
Just for Creswell,
just for us,
Caitlin?
so that we can
How many
review
pages do you
them?
think that would be?
is it this, is it?
No, that's not it.
That can't be that
Oh,
big.
That's for me to take home.
I take it back if that's,
Yeah.
You gotta sign it out when you go back to the library.
Yeah.
it
It's
is.
at least this thick, and that's okay.
I,
It's not that, I don't find it hard to navigate because I sort of know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
the problem is you have to search for things. It's not really easy to just go click in and just read it all, right? And
Yeah.
that's the issue I run into.
Yeah.
Since they went to this new website, it's
Better go
gotten a
through.
lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, keep in mind that the legislature meets every 2 years, and they pass a bunch of things. And they change the traffic laws. And so you guys have to update your traffic code after the legislature does their thing, because basically, there's a lot of exceptions, of course, because there's ordinances unique to the city of Creswell. If they're citing them under the new ordinance, but under the new statute, in ORS, Chapter 811, for example, but it's not been updated by the city of Creswell, we got a problem in terms of which one to apply, because traffic laws are supposed to be uniform. So just kind of keep that in mind to one project for the city manager.
I'm not really looking to really change anything. I just want to understand all of them. I'd like to just be able to
Yeah.
flip through a book and
Well, I think
read it all.
I'll ask
You have to
Caitlin.
change some things to stay up to date, that's
Yeah.
my point.
So I'm requesting that Caitlin do that for all of us.
Okay.
So we can review them, and then
Sorry,
we'd have, yeah, sorry. But that way we can all have a plan of attack, and if there is certain things that citizens yourself, you know, who you represent, we all represent Creswell, but individually, we represent different parts of Creswell. We can bring that up, and give it to Judge, we can see if there's anything need amended, or if there's just more, hey, we're encouraging you, is what our feedback is more of, you know, one or two, after that second chance, you really need to
Yeah.
hold the book. We like what the book says, just stick to it.
The two complaints I hear the most out in the real world is speeding and property crime. So just maybe.
Those are the two I hear the most as well.
Those are the things I hear the most.
Especially
You
in
could
schools.
write 20 tickets a day for failure to obey a stop sign at the
I
one right out
agreed.
there. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, speeding's a big one. Back in the day, there was a guy named Officer Tolman.
That was my day.
He was a very,
Earlier day too.
very interesting guy. I really liked the guy.
He was fair.
We butted heads a time or two, and, you know, one time he was in court and I ruled against him, and he said, well, I don't care what you think, I'm gonna keep writing him. And I said, well, I wear the black robes and I'm gonna keep dismissing him. So he was all upset, you know, and his wife was there. And his wife is like, he's going like, wife, you know, hey, you know, I'm being treated unfairly and it's terrible. And pardon my French, he said, well, Jesus Christ, Dwayne, if you wouldn't write chicken shit tickets, you wouldn't have this problem. He wrote lots of tickets from tinted windows, to tires sticking out too far, to speeding and those kinds of things. We had dockets sometimes where we had 50 or 60 people, and this was in the days when we were down in the little office before we moved to the community center, before we moved to the council chambers, where, we'd have 50 people, and they'd have to wait outside for their turn to come in. So it can be done, we can manage that stuff. A lot of stuff about the sheriff not writing stuff was they had some big felony stuff that required more attention than, whether somebody was speeding or not, so.
Well, this is a two-pronged approach. We're speaking with you, the
Yeah.
next would be with Sergeant Speldridge and making sure that he's out there doing what the people were requesting as well.
And I want to listen to the sheriff, because if they don't, I believe I'm treating them fairly, but if they don't think it is, I want to know what it is I can do better so that they don't have that feeling. They got a tough enough job. For example, I will not tolerate people giving a sheriff's deputy crap at the scene of the stop. That's, no, you cannot do that ever. And I dress down defendants every time I hear that's in place. And I always encourage the sheriff's deputies, if they, I'm having a discussion with a defendant, and they're over there, and sometimes they know a lot more than I do. Even the court clerks knows a lot more than I do. And so after they've had their piece, if the deputy knows something that's relevant that totally contradicts what the defendant is saying or doing, I want to hear that. Because, we operate on trust, and I don't trust liars. It's that simple, so.
All right, so to move forward, thank you, Judge Palmer, for coming.
Thank you.
I'm saying in a couple of months, maybe, yes.
Thank you. Well, I can
Yes, sir.
always do better, and I appreciate the feedback.
Maybe in a couple of months, we'll have something for you, but thank you for,
Great, let me know, I'll come back,
Caitlin, you got
I'll
some
talk
copies to
about it and
make?
anything else.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you for your
I appreciate
time,
it.
Judge Palmer.
Appreciate
Have a good evening.
it. All right, so we'll move on to discussion items. Curtis, they're all yours, buddy.
All right. Is that on? Yeah, good. Well, it's kind of a tough act to follow, but do my best to make it interesting.
Double your fine.
So the first item in front of you is a zone change, and so this is a comprehensive map change as well as a zone change. And just to provide a little bit more, the annexations first. So we have an annexation, we've had a few of these this year, which is just kind of a coincidence, I'm not entirely sure why. And so with an annexation, there's a couple of criteria. One is that the property is within the growth boundary. Another is that it's contiguous to city limits. One is that the new assigned zoning matches the comprehensive plan, and that urban services can be provided. So can the parcel be reached by water, sewer, and roadways are kind of the big three. And so in front of you, it's an annexation initiated by Nathan Marple to annex in about 9.5 acres to be designated as low-density residential. And so he meets all the criteria that I just listed. I sent out the 300-foot neighbor notice, and I haven't received any comments at this point. As we've seen from the last annexations, it seems like the public comment comes forward at the time of the city council meeting, so I'm not surprised that there's nobody here today, but I haven't heard anything so far. I think the two kind of question marks of this property that are yet to be figured out are kind of the floodplain questions. This property does have significant floodplain, and with the FEMA rulings becoming stricter or potentially becoming stricter and the flood map changing, I'm not entirely sure how this will affect the property, because they also are bringing the property into city limits so they can work on their floodplain fill permit. It's easier to go through a floodplain fill permit with the city than the county, so that's one of the reasons for annexation. And then further down the road, this is part of the Emerald Valley wastewater sewer system area. And right now, the Emerald Valley system, they're not authorized to extend a main line. And so this site is about 9.5 acres, so it's large enough for a subdivision. And so at this time, it's not really clear how the parcel will develop, but so those will kind of be reviewed as development progresses and conversations happen.
That's my biggest concern is the runoff. It's already at a higher elevation. If they had put another higher elevation, you're gonna have to do some culvert. I mean, there's a lot of runoff on that property. I can go north and south, so that's my big concern on that property. Significant amount of runoff. Councilors, any questions for Curtis on that? Before the public hearing's next meeting, right?
Yep, August 11th.
Councilor, see you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on page 3 of 7, under I, it says the parties hereby recognize the property owner previously executed a Measure 49 waiver, which has been recorded, will run with this property, Lane County deeds, et cetera, et cetera. The parties acknowledge that the city's obligations hereunder are contingent under the property owner's compliance with this Measure 49 waiver. Can you speak to that? I don't know exactly what does that mean? What waiver?
Yeah.
Measure 49.
I can kind of give a high-level summary. Happy to, at the next meeting, I can provide a little bit more detail on it. So Measure 49 waiver, it's a ruling that applies to county properties. And at some point in time, the land use rules changed in the county, and Measure 49 was the way to fix that. And so somebody who had a county property could make a Measure 49 claim, and that gave them rights to, I think, a financial compensation. And so by bringing this property to the city jurisdiction, they're kind of waiving their right to make a Measure 49 claim.
Okay.
That's...
Yeah, I tried to research that, and the 49 is to fix Measure 37, and it doesn't really sound like that big of a deal, but it really, I just didn't understand, how does this play into this lot, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand.
It's probably not something we even need to require, but it's been done on all the annexations prior to this, and so just kind of applying a consistent procedure for all annexations is my understanding. But again, happy to provide a little more information.
Sure, yeah, if you would.
Yeah, it is curious.
Councilor Kramer?
So, kind of the same roundabout question here, but this is about Emerald Valley, like, so before we even get started, we need to know how many hookups they can have before we even talk about how many residents can go in there. But then DEQ said you can't, there's nothing been established yet, but they won't allow it yet. So where are we starting at?
Yeah, so kind of unknown at this point. I mean, those are questions that will be fleshed out at the development application. At this point, we know that there's a sewer main line that is present in Dale Cooney Road, so urban services are available, or they can be available. We know that Emerald Valley can expand their system. To what extent and exactly how is kind of not fully determined, but
Because there's a lot of property that could go in there, or lots. So I mean,
I believe the plan is at least 9 1-acre lots or.
Yeah, it's low density, so it's probably more of those giant houses.
yeah, I think it's like a standard subdivision, 7,000 square foot lots.
Councilor
Yeah.
Holt?
Just for my clarification, at this point, we're just choosing whether or not we're going to allow the annexation, correct?
Correct. So the questions about wastewater serviceability, stormwater, all those are development questions that are a little bit more appropriate at that time.
I mean, theoretically, we could annex the property and then he could run into a million roadblocks, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's taking that risk,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions for Curtis on this? Everybody okay to move forward with annexation from next meeting? All right, thanks, Curtis.
Okay, thank you.
Next one is the old school zone.
So the second item in front of you is so it's a comprehensive map change and a zoning change. And so within land use, the comprehensive plan designation is kind of the base. And then on top of that is the zone change. And so for example, within our base zones, we have commercial, we have residential, we have public facilities. And so like if a residential lot changed from like medium to high density or medium to low density, that's just a zone change. But this is a change from public facilities to a commercial lot. And so that's kind of the comprehensive map change, which is why it comes to city council. So it's a little bit more in-depth than just a zone change. And so I think, so this was given to Planning Commission at the last meeting, and Planning Commission recommended unanimous approval, 4-0. And same with the annexation, I have not received any public comment. There was a 100-foot neighbor notice, which I was kind of nervous about, given that the people on 2nd Street have been stirred up a little bit. But anyway, so I think the root of this zone change is that it finds an inconsistency, or it fixes an inconsistency in the comprehensive plan. So this lot is owned by Creswell First, and it was owned public facilities, or it is owned public facilities. That zoning is meant to apply for properties that are owned by the public. So this building that we're in today is public facilities owned, the school is public facilities. And so at the time, many years ago, the city owned that property and they leased it out to a couple different groups to run services. One of the last uses was a local library. And then at some point in time, the city declared the property surplus property and sold it to the Creswell Heritage Foundation for $1. The Heritage Foundation fixed it up with the grant from the city, and then eventually sold it to Creswell First. And so at that time, when the city sold it to Creswell Heritage Foundation, should have been the time where the zoning was kind of looked at and reconsidered, but a lot of times inconsistencies in the zoning don't show up until a question's asked. And so a couple weeks ago, Creswell First, they inquired whether or not they could have a vendor at their building. And on a public facilities site, you can't have commercial uses. And so they were asking about, well, what if we have a farmer's market, or like a plant trading thing, or if they have an event and there's like a little coffee station, can we have that? And then the answer is no. And so I talked to the city attorney about the possibility of having a vendor at the site, and the city attorney landed on like, well, they could have a temporary use permit, but every time there's a new vendor, you'd have to apply for a new temporary use permit, and it just starts to get a little repetitive. And so for the comp plan change, it has to be consistent with our comprehensive plan policies, and most of our economic development policies don't really align. A lot of them are like encourage pedestrian activity, have a blend of high wage jobs. But one of the ones, it says, encourage existing businesses that facilitate the growth of Creswell and enhancing the quality of life in Creswell, and that's kind of the mission of the nonprofit, to distribute resources to groups that can give them out. There is a downtown plan, and the downtown plan policies I didn't think they really applied to the site. There's some general policies of encouraging commercial businesses in the downtown. I think that's the closest policy that applies. And so just kind of the baseline criteria is that it's consistent with the existing comprehensive plan, and can facilities adequately serve the site? And so the facilities question is a bigger issue when it's like like a low-density development going to like high-density, because you have to look at the intersection and parking and all those things. And so this goes from a public facilities to a commercial use, and so there's probably a little bit more strain on our roadways and waterways, et cetera. There's probably a little bit more use. It's a little bit kind of hard to measure, but I think what's going for this site's favor is that there is a major road project going on, and so that site is kind of well on its way to being very adequately served. And then the final thing is that it reflects an inconsistency, or it reflects a change. This brings a parcel into consistency with the comprehensive plan. Like, this is, the site was zoned public facilities, that's for publicly owned property. This is not publicly owned, therefore the zone should be changed to reflect that.
Councilors, Councilor Holt?
Of course.
I got a few myself.
Okay, I have a few questions. I will start with, what is the current zoning of their neighbors, the ones right directly across from the bakery is the ones I'm concerned about?
They're zoned downtown commercial.
They are, so that it would be in line with them.
Correct.
If we were to change their zoning, would we then re-examine their TUF fee, and would that change accordingly as well?
I believe the TUF fee is based on use.
But it's also, there's
Square
a difference
footage.
between commercial and non-commercial, correct?
Commercial and residential, so whether it's a nonprofit or.
So it fell under
It's still
the
commercial.
same category already, okay, fair. And then, page 7 of 9, under program, under economic policies, item A, is that for real?
So those are policies that are from our 2005 economic opportunities
Is
analysis.
that, so that's for real, additional 900 jobs to the employment base by 2025?
Yeah.
No?
Yes, I mean, that's an old policy, not related to tonight, but we are working on a revised economic opportunities plan that will strike all these policies and replace them with new ones.
Oh, sounds like it's needed.
That's what the McDonald's is gonna do.
That's fair, because that's, I mean, Creswell, you know, I understand that we don't want to become gentrified, right? But we also don't want to grow at that kind of pace.
Yeah, a little sneak peek, the population numbers for Creswell have plateaued a little bit. And so the projection from 2025 to 2045 is about 500 jobs, so it's,
So this
It's a lot
this
less.
covered a large span of years.
no, I think it just overly estimated Creswell's population. I mean, if you look at the early economic plans, people were guessing that Creswell was going to be a population of 10,000 by now.
Thank God it's not, okay.
Yeah, so it's,
Councilors, anyone else? I'll go. I got a concern with the bakery and Second Street as we've dealt with this situation in Second Street and the bakery being zoned commercial and then all this residential and how many letters have you gotten, or have you put out letters yet to homeowners that this could be commercial building now?
yeah, I did send out a notice.
So I'm assuming you've had a lot of letters?
I haven't received any.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're saying their houses are commercial zoned?
Correct.
Okay.
It just seemed like the ones that showed up to the meetings had been concerns with residential and commercial, and that their houses have been back and forth and confusing, and I don't want to devalue property values, but I don't know how we could have another commercial building right
I
there at
agree.
that intersection, even if it is only once a month. I don't know where they're gonna park, I don't know where vendors are gonna park, I don't see it.
We're destroying those families, that's how I feel.
And after everything we did to get through the Second Street, which, you know, I still get emails and comments on here and there, and I just don't see it. I don't know how you can put that as a commercial building, and there's nothing against Creswell First, I want that for them. I just don't see where you're gonna put vendors or park, or in the congestion, and then to change just theirs, which I understand why you're doing it, it makes sense, that part does. But if we devalue or alter somebody else's home value any further, I will not be a part of that.
Yeah, I would feel responsible for that as well. That's why I asked the question about how they're zoned, because I just feel like we're just hammering them, and I don't think it's fair.
Yeah,
I know, it's my opinion, and I understand that, but.
Councilors, if nobody else has anything, a couple people in the crowd have some. Sir?
Yeah, with Creswell First, and I actually manage the schoolhouse, and you know, I get what you're saying. Let me give you a little bit of context, because we're not trying to make any money off this place. You know, the place was sold for $1 to the Heritage Foundation. They put a tremendous amount of money in there to restore the building, because it's a landmark in the city, right? It's a historical landmark. And so they didn't want to manage it after that. Nobody else wanted to manage the place. Creswell First said, you know, we don't want to see, I don't think anybody wants to see, after putting all that money into the facility, see it sit empty with no services being paid for, the grass getting tall, people camping under the porch, like, it's just, it would fall apart again, right? And so the vision, you know, as the person that's trying to manage this space, I have two goals. One is to just get it to pay for itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about a $500 a month overhead, and we're not even coming close to that right now. And so what we're using it for right now is just letting the community come in and do birthday parties and that kind of thing. And they pay a small fee to do that, and we keep the fee small because we want it to be for the community, and we want it to be inexpensive to do that, right? And we love that. It's not sustainable for taking care of an old building. We're not even really meeting the monthly cost of it, right? So we're trying to look at, we have to come up with some creative ways to pay for the space. And the second goal would be, you know, is to have a great place for the community. We have got some great feedback, the people that have used it, that, hey, this is a great space. It is. At the price we're renting it, we would have to average somebody in there every single weekend, and we're not going to do that, right? So it's not we're not trying to get somebody in there. A lot, honestly, we're scrambling to say, how are we going to make this building pay for itself, right? Because Creswell First doesn't have a lot of overhead traditionally. We don't have any traditionally, and this is kind of a new thing for us. I'm open to creative solutions, and if somebody wants to sit down and talk about what some of those solutions could look like, the hard spot we're in is we're not a community-owned building, so we don't get breaks on things like electrical or sewer or subsidies or anything like that to sort of help support all that, right? So, you know, I'm totally open to sitting down and saying, what are some creative ways that we can take care of this building without overtaxing the area, making it viable for it to be a community space without bringing commercial stuff in there, right? The reason this all came up was we had somebody that wants to do a pop-up coffee vendor that they could set up, they could break down, it would still be available for community to rent the space. But I get it, man. That whole corner is a mess right now, right? Like we had a kids camp in there last week all day, and I was like, how are they even doing that, man? There's like they're tearing up the road right outside of that building right now, right? And I drove by, I'm like, man, they must have been holding those kids inside for fear of their life or something. I don't know. It's a crazy over there. But yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to sit down and help us try to figure out a solution, that would be great. You know, again, it's great to have it available for the community, but we got to figure out a way for it to pay for itself, because we can't, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what we're up against.
I respect what you guys do. I appreciate what you guys do. Creswell First as a whole, it's a big deal. And I don't want to go against you guys by any means, and if I can come up with a good idea, I'll try and give it to you. But it's definitely not an easy decision where we sit with what we just went through with Second Street, and to make sense and trying to be consistent, you know, with what we've done with the zoning and whatnot. So I'm for you guys. I like the idea of, you know, you're going to pop up coffee shop. Maybe we make a permit a little more accessible, where you guys can make some money and continue to have parties there. And maybe you have a pop-up coffee party, and then you have a pop-up flower shop or something. You know, I don't know if that's the option or not. I struggle with this one because we went tooth and nail for the last few months for Second Street.
Yeah.
But, you know, to try and promote Creswell First and keep an old school building available for, my kids to go look at, hey, this is where grandpa went to school at, holy crap, this is a small school. I want to keep that heritage and history, and the history is so important, so those are my opinions as where we're at. I just think that's a difficult one to rezone just for that. I would rather see if there's a way to consistently come up with a better permit.
I think we have to rezone, don't we?
I mean, you don't have to.
Oh,
In order
okay.
to do what needs to be.
Can we not rezone and still
Allow half of
fairly, maybe re-language a permit for somebody to have a pop-up, just like the rodeo? To have a liquor, maybe there's an adult party where there's a whiskey tasting works, I will attend.
I think,
Just saying it out loud.
they do have to keep their nonprofit status somehow.
Okay.
My recommendation is to go forward with the zone change because any sort of temporary permit has to be consistent with what's allowed in the underlying zone. And so there is a change of use permit because we're kind of going from this, library to unused building to now it's a community center. And so there's a procedure that could outline some steps.
But it's not really a community center. It's not, we have nothing to do with it except that we give them money and they disperse that to nonprofits, is that correct?
Yeah, and this doesn't have anything to do with the grant money that
Right,
Creswell
right.
gives to us, right? This is
Yeah.
totally separate.
Yeah, so it's not really I guess it's a community center, but it's not a city-funded community center,
Correct, yeah.
correct? Yeah.
No, I just, the way I understand this is really the path of least resistance for them to create, to become financially sustainable, to aid in that, would be to rezone that. Because if not, then every event that comes along has to be looked at for the temporary use permit. And as the city attorney says, if allowed at all. So, you can still do that, right? Use your temporary permit, but it's gonna go under scrutiny and maybe be allowed or maybe not be allowed?
I mean, yeah, again, temporary use permits are only allowed if the underlying zone allows them to, and commercial uses aren't allowed in the public facilities district. So,
Shelley?
All right, I'm speaking because I use that building. We do nonprofit fundraising, Festival of Trees every year. Working with Creswell First, we raise funds for Creswell kids who may not have a new jacket, who may not have shoes. I think you need to rezone it because it's no longer a publicly owned facility. I'm sorry, but I don't think Creswell Bakery should be the only zoned business down there. I don't think they should be hindered because of the facility, because of the proximity to where they are. It's a small building. It is an absolute gorgeous building. They did a wonderful job. The community center is going to go away. Right now, it's not appropriate for a lot of people to rent. It's
Smelly.
It's in the 80s. It
Smelly.
hasn't moved from the 80s. So to not look at that as an asset for the city is a shame. There's been a lot of money, a lot of Creswellians fundraising for that building to be a spotlight, and to just say no because it's across the street from the bakery, I think is a shame.
I hope I didn't put that off. I'm not saying no because it's across, I'm not saying no because of that, but it does with what we just went through. But if you have not gotten a letter from anyone on Second Street in a 100-foot range, it's a lot easier for me to decide.
That's
Yeah.
exactly,
And I'm not anti-Creswell First.
that's my
over-
question is, when you actually said notices went out to people, did you say within 100 feet?
100 feet, yeah.
Okay. How narrow could we get? Maybe just someone on the side of the road. I mean, that's not a broad enough area considering the amount of people that came here that were objecting to Second Street or gave Cliff all the problems or whatever. Maybe these people don't even know, or they didn't get it, or they're not paying attention anymore because Second Street's going on and they just think it's one more thing to pile on with Second Street. Maybe they don't understand. But you also said that, because no one responded, which seems kind of out of character for all of them. But didn't you say they're also zoned commercial now? Their homes are zoned?
It was commercial residential. at
Okay,
both.
so as long as it's commercial residential, I was just thinking about them, like if anyone wanted to sell their home and they're not aware the zoning has changed, could that at some point cause problems? But back just a second to the Marple thing, did you say those notices went out and they were if you were within 300 feet?
Correct.
So I don't think I live within 300 feet, but I don't think I got a notice, but I might be as the crow flies 300 feet. I'm not really sure, but,
It's as the crow flies, but.
okay.
I'm
I'm just
surprised on
wondering
that.
how thorough it really is and how that's being decided, because a little bit more than 100 feet or 300 feet might be a little bit better, and in the long run, I know you maybe don't want attention brought to it, that's what it kind of feels like, but I think the people on Second Street, I don't know any of them, I don't have a dog in the fight, but it seems to me like somebody would have at least sent one gripe to Cliff or somebody.
Well, the three that came and visited often live within 100 feet.
Oh, okay.
I know the three that came here most frequently, that they definitely live within 100 feet. If not, they share property line with it. Shelley?
It's just
And
not
the
that-
conversations I've had with the people around that area, they are for the
The
schoolhouse
schoolhouse,
building.
yes.
They are 100% for that building and for what it's become, and to have a nice place to come to Creswell, to have a baby shower, have a
support it.
celebration of life, have the festival of trees.
Uh-huh.
I have not had one complaint, and there are people that come and go, but it's pretty few and far between, and does it rise up to the level of the bakery.
Okay. Well, it really is easier for me to decide. If you haven't gotten any complaints, I really hope that the letters went out, and I'm not saying that you didn't put them out, but that somebody responded. Because if you put out, 100-foot letters and nobody's responded, it makes it a lot easier for me to decide.
I want to make really clear, I am not anti-Creswell First. I am on the side of the homeowners that I think have gotten an unfair shake in the whole Second Street deal. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah, I just, first of all, I would not take no vote against Creswell First. That's, I get it, man. I get I've been in a few of the meetings, and I will say we have really good relationships with our neighbors down there, and I've sat and we're in that mess together because we're dealing with the same stuff. And, I've had with the next door neighbor that I forget his name, but they're putting the driveway in and he's in all the parking, he's right, Brandon, right.
And Charlotte.
I've sat and talked with him for a long time because we're kind of going through that together because we're looking at that going, okay, what do we do, right? So we have really great relationships with our neighbors. We're not looking to put a big commercial enterprise in there. The problem is that the zoning it's an on-off switch, right? It shuts down a lot of creative ideas that aren't big business, right? And so the ask isn't, and I understand the optics of it too, that they're already going through this, and then all of a sudden we're also changing the house across the street to commercial. But we do have a good relationship with our neighbors down there. So,
Okay.
and yeah.
Anyone else?
Are they,
Angela?
I just had a question. Wouldn't it, if I'm understanding this right, it just zones it the same as every other place on that block, right? Like the house next door is zoned what you're applying to change it to.
Yeah.
So I don't know how
That's
that,
why that was
Maybe
my
that's
first question, yeah.
yeah, how would that change, if it changes to commercial, residential, like every other neighbor on the property, how is that gonna affect them negatively? I mean, I understand if they're like commercial coming in, but that doesn't sound like that's even feasible for the size of the building or anything like that.
Well, that's the questions we've got to answer, is I don't want to, devalue anyone's property value. If anything, I want to raise them up, so, and if neighbors have an issue with it who live next door, then those are my concerns. I don't live there, so it doesn't really affect me personally, but it affects me in decision-making on making sure that I do not devalue somebody's property and that I listen to the neighbor directly to you, which I know him and I've listened to him many times, You know, and he can email me if he's listening or watching and let me know. But it's, you know, I want to make sure that all parties have been heard. I'm not against Creswell First. I'm all for it, doing your pop-up thing, and you're not trying to make money, you're just trying to survive and keep the building alive. I want to do that too. So I'm not against it, and I don't know if it's a bad thing, but we've heard a lot of testimony throughout the last year of residential, commercial. First it was residential, then it's commercial, now I'm residential, commercial. I don't know what my property is, whether that's Creswell's fault or whomever down the line. Multiple property owners in that area, in those 2 blocks, have come and said, I'm residential, commercial, my value has changed, this has changed, the bakery's changed. I don't, you know, we're just trying to decipher what's true and what's not, or what's ignorance, what's confusion, you know. Councilor Dukes?
My big, because I know you're talking about a coffee place or something like that coming in, that pop-up. Now, is this gonna be a permanent thing?
No, it's a pop-up, they would set it up, they would tear it down, take it with them.
Okay, because that was my biggest thing, is are we gonna have something that's gonna be all the time? Because that would.
You're hoping ideally, you're trying to have something once a week? I mean.
I've tried to, yeah.
Okay. You know, so if we were to sit here and approve it, or, you know, the sky's blue and everything works out, you're hoping to have something once a week that's funding enough that you can pay utilities and property taxes and continue to rent it out to the community?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Holt?
I think the biggest difference between them and the 4 however many residences are next to them is the other residences aren't looking to make money. They're not looking to have events. They're not looking to increase the amount of traffic on the road. A commercial zone building could start with a pop-up one day and then decide, well, we want to put a permanent coffee stand here. Now we've got traffic coming to that. I get your argument, Shelley, about, you know, allowing it for the bakery and not allowing it for them. Well, I'm of the strong opinion that the bakery should have never been put there, but we can't do anything about that, you know? But to continue to make it worse for those residents, I have a really hard time swallowing that too. So all I can do is go on your word. That's all I can do at this point, you know, and I'm inclined to do that. I have a lot of questions about this, so.
Honestly, that's the struggle. I believe you. I believe what you guys are trying to do, but we're going on word, so.
That's what makes this hard.
Councilor Castillo, I'll get right back to that.
Will this, at some point, if this moves forward, will this require a public hearing?
Yeah, on August
And
11th.
can we get more letters out a little further than the 100 feet?
Maybe 300?
Yeah. Is that just a minimum requirement or something? Where did the 100 feet come from?
It is the requirement in our development code, and I don't know if going beyond that is legal. I'd have to check.
It's 100.
100, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 100 for this, 300 feet for annexation.
Okay. Can we look into that? Just see if we can? Or you know that for a fact? We can't go more than 100?
I know the rule says you have to send a notice out to 100 feet. I think it's 20 days before the first public hearing, which would have been planning commission.
We have a way around that.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I was
can,
gonna say
Crestwell First could reach out.
If we request a letter to go out
Could you do it?
300 feet or whatever.
Did you do a mailing or a
Yeah, I
notice?
mean, if
Or
we-
you just walk up to somebody's home and you give their name and address and they sign it that we're, you know, a simple, we're okay with it. It's just another avenue for you to prove to us that, hey, we're taking your word.
That would be great.
Yeah.
It's another way to get around. He doesn't have to worry about it. We don't have to stress about it. You went out and you got 150 different signatures to say, hey, we're okay with this.
I would be in full support. I fully agree with what Manager Humble said. I really want to support that, but I would really feel much better about it if
I get it,
if the
yeah.
neighborhood was okay with that.
Yeah.
Bill?
I've got a question because it's not clear to me as a layman. So all they want is the same zoning as the other houses on the street. And so if the other houses on the street are currently residential, commercial, every house on the street could run a bakery if they wanted to without some change. So it's like you guys think you're changing something and giving them an unfair advantage that the neighbors don't have. But every neighbor on that street could run a business. They could all turn into law offices. They could do anything they wanted because of the zoning.
I have no proof of what the neighbor's zoning is.
They're
So I have
all-
nothing in front of me.
they're all downtown commercial.
Okay.
So that came out in the first meeting when we talked about the street and why the sidewalks, and it is, everything in there is commercial residential.
Yeah.
That
So
doesn't keep me from
you-
caring about them and about the challenges that they already face. That's the only reason I asked the
They bought
question.
the house. and it
They
was
bought the
commercial
house
residential.
before all that crap
They
started.
didn't buy the house commercial residential. Most of them, as you heard them say here, things have changed. It's gone one way back to another.
That's
So
exactly right.
I don't think we can speak on behalf of any of them who aren't here. That's not fair.
That's where I'm at. I just want to get more public opinion. Counselor Morris?
Would the public hearing, is that what we're calling it, not accomplish a lot of that same thing?
There would be noticed.
It would, because we'd have that, we could have that next meeting, we'd have multiple
Right.
public hearings before the meeting, and then we can.
Get the
So
word
if
out,
they had
more than
strong
100
feelings,
feet.
they can come to the public hearing, and
Yep.
you would accomplish the same thing as sending out letters and seeing if people call you or email you.
Bill, and Bill, you're not wrong, but I need more, sitting up here as mayor, I need some proof, I need something I need to hear from the neighbors
I
that
really
we've heard
don't
so
know
much from them.
If they knew when they bought it, you know,
Yeah.
because you don't know everything about a place when you
Yeah,
buy it.
and
so
there was a lot of
I
different.
agree with that.
Nothing feels
Some of
important.
those,
And-
some of those homeowners have been there a lot longer than any of that.
Yeah, I don't mind talking to people.
So if we're, council, are we okay to move forward with making a decision? We're gonna have a public hearing. If you could do anything on your end to get some signatures and come and say, here, I'm here to speak, and you got something?
Sure.
It'll help us councilors make a simple decision.
We don't want to do it if the neighbors are against it, right?
Exactly,
I mean,
and we're not against Creswell first,
Yeah,
we're
I'm not.
discussing it in a
I'm
broad
not pushing
range.
for this. If it's not a good time for that neighborhood, that's fine. I would be, like, if that's the case, if there's someone from the city that could sit down with me and talk about alternatives, because I'm not sure what the alternative is, right? The alternative might be that the city gets the building back and it sits empty. I don't know.
Which we don't want that, we want you guys to maintain it,
Right.
we want to encourage that and embolden you, we
Yeah,
want to help you as
absolutely.
best we can. We just need to know exactly what that is on paper, we can't just, it's on a crayon, or you said it was gonna go this route, and
Sure.
it didn't,
Yeah.
so. Counselor Holt?
I fully intend to support this. I was really hoping, what I was hoping by my questions is to perhaps identify another type of zoning we could do that would allow them to do their small pop-ups and things like that, but then not go for a full commercial. However, knowing that everybody else is on that same zoning, that makes no sense to do one separate. So,
We may have a long conversation for
Yeah.
no reason, but I feel better, that I spoke my piece, and that we all spoke our piece, and that we are considering everyone.
Yeah, and just to be
That's-
clear,
that's
like,
where it's
Creswell
at.
First is on the same team with you guys about how people feel. That's important to us too.
Yeah.
So we'll put some.
And I agree, I'm encouraged, I want you guys to do it, I want it to continue to happen, all right. So council's good to move forward, Curtis, bring it to the agenda?
That sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
everybody good? Yep. All right, we're adjourned. All right.
It is a beautiful building.
The municipal code to all of you guys as a Adobe PDF. I am working on